Hey guys, so for today's movie review, I'm going to talk about a independent film that was recently shown in the city I live in of Madison, Wisconsin. This film is called Dirty Wars, and strangely enough, I did get to meet the star, co-writer, and narrator of this film. This guy took on all three of those roles for this movie. His name is Jeremy Scahill. Hold on a second, I want to make sure I got that right. Yes, Jeremy Scahill. Um, and yeah, so he was at the screening I was at for this. And this is a documentary about his experience, going over to Afghanistan, kind of see what the war is like, going on through all these years. And the film also explores some of his experience in Yemen, in Somalia. Um, So basically, it was kind of this cinematic journal he was keeping. He'd have this guy filming him, who was basically the director of the movie, this Richard Rowley. So Richard Rowley was the cinematographer, editor, and director of this movie. So he basically helped film, Jeremy's recordings and observations of everything that was going on. So Jeremy observed the war, these night raids that were going on. The mystery and answers behind the assassination of Anwar al-Awlaki, if I pronounced that correctly. He was an American citizen who was actually targeted by the government for killing. If you found him, you can kill him on sight, pretty much. Um, and he was a part of these terrorist operations for al-Qaeda. So the film basically covers all those things I just mentioned. So it's basically this journalistic chronicle of how Jeremy views everything, how the government has a tendency to hide things from us. That basically there's much more to the war that went on that we're probably never going to really know about personally, unless you know somebody that who's served in the military or is in Jeremy's position where you're actually there and seeing what's going on, as far as what the war is like and what the secrets that aren't really told to us. Um, so Dirty Wars, you guys, like I said, it was pretty cool that got to meet one of the stars of this movie. Um, but films, the overall film experience for me though was a little bit on and off, and I'll get to that here in a second of why that was the case. But for positives, this film was very informative. It's a very informative film. So if you're looking for a political film that really keeps you up to date on some of the stuff that Afghanistan is like, as far as the war goes. This film does a very good job informing you of some things that you might not have been aware of before. Um, the film also has some interesting viewpoints on government hiding information from us and kind of the children's experience with this war. How are they viewing their moms and dads getting killed? Always hearing gunfire and weapons going off all the time. So it was very interesting to see kind of this sense of tragedy that's going on overseas. I mean, like these are human beings too, and of course they're gonna be scared from seeing all these weapons and people getting killed and potentially their parents and loved ones getting killed. It's a very scary feeling, and the film really represents that really well. Um, Jeremy Scahill, I think, has a very good narrative voice. Um, it's definitely not. I definitely didn't watch this film and like, oh, I really wish they had someone else narrating this. He did a very good job narrating his own work, so very good work with. Because keep in mind, he almost didn't do this movie. It was basically just this guy was filming him as he was going along on this journalistic adventure, and at first he really wasn't even going to use this for a film. And the fact that he later on agreed to do this as a film, and basically just provided his own voice for this, was just very impressive in the sense that this was probably his first time doing something like this, and very good narrative voice for a film like this. The film also shows you some top secret photos that you may not have seen in like a magazine or a newspaper, simply because it would look really bad on the White House and some people who work for it. So the film is definitely a very revealing film. It's definitely a film that definitely wants to not hold anything against you. It definitely want to shows you what the truth is about all of this, all the things that went on during these Al Qaeda attacks, and all the Afghanistan war related events. Um, The film also, I think, has a very good representation of the tragedy of the war and how government can be really secretive and very kind of deceiving at times. So the film does a very good job representing that. Um, for the negatives, you guys, I really did not like how um, the interview scenes, when they were interviewing, people who were part of this event or people who were impacted by these events. I didn't like how the camera angles and um, were positioned for the people being interviewed because it almost looked like a floating head. Like if they were so close up, it's like I'm trying to position myself here. It's almost like watching this. It's like, do you really want to watch an interview that looks like this? It's like, why don't you want to watch an interview where you get, the head and the shoulders, and you get a sense that this person has a body. And after a while, after seeing almost every single interview in this movie being done like this, it's just like I really wish they just got a better cameraman to do this. So I didn't like the sense of floating heads in this for the interviews. It was just really distracting after a while. Um, the film surprisingly won like best cinematography at the Sundance Film Festival, and that really shocks me because that goes back to the interview thing where um, I just got really annoyed by these floating heads for these interviews. Um, so I kind of had to disagree on whoever gave the award to this for best cinematography. I really did not think this film had the greatest cinematography. I've seen a lot better versions of this. Um, so I'm going to have to disagree for whoever gave that award. This film is also a little boring and hard to sit through. You really got to be big into politics in order to like this movie, and I'm unfortunately not one of those people. So, since that was the case for me, this film was rather boring and hard to sit through. Um, Make sure you're big on politics and military stuff when it comes to seeing this film. If you're not, this might not be the best thing to watch. So make sure you're hardcore about the material because they don't cover anything as far as telling you what these small organizations are. Like they kept on mentioning this thing called JSOC. I have no idea what JSOC is. They kept on mentioning all these little divisions and organizations that someone like me that doesn't really keep up to politics that much is not going to know about. So it's not a very they don't keep you up to date on what those things are. So if you don't know what those kind of things are, you're going to be very lost throughout this movie, like I was. Um, and like I was saying before, some things just never get explained, and it really kind of takes you out of the experience because it almost feels like you have to be exclusive to this kind of target audience in order to get what's going on. But overall, guys, I give Dirty Wars a 7.5 out of 10. It does what it does. It does what it needs to do well. It's definitely informative. It definitely shows a tragic side of society for sure, specifically with this war going on. But there's just small things like camera angles and being exclusive to the people who are hardcore about politics and military stuff that really kind of takes you out of the experience because it almost makes it feel like you have to be in the in group in order to get everything, and I really don't like when a film does that. So like I said, Dirty Wars gets a 7.5 out of 10 for me. It's okay. Um, like I said, you really got to be into this material in order to really get a sense of passion for this film.